Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. Today we're going to focus just on the dog's nose and how to create a more realistic look with just pastel pencils. So stay tuned, grab your pencils, grab your paper, and I'll see you soon. Hi and welcome back to the studio. This is Mike, the artist behind Michael S. Spell Fine Art. Today I'm going to break down this dog nose on a project that I just completed, strictly pastels using PanPastels, the soft tools, and my Carbothello and PITT pastel pencils. So I'll break this down. We're going to start off with just a gray, and this is going to give me an outline of the area so that I don't lose it in case I put my hand over it. Once I get the gray down, what I'm going to do is come back in with the black, so the darker areas that I do underneath the nose area. I'll work this way back and forth until I get a general outline of what I'm trying to do here. I'll go ahead and speed this process up just a little bit so you don't have to sit here and watch the slow, agonizing process of putting this dog nose together. But like I said, I'll speed this up a little bit and then I'll slow it back down when we get to another area that I want you to pay attention to. One of the things that I'd like to point out is that I switch over to my PITT pastel pencil here. One of the reasons that I do that is that the PITT pastel pencil is a little harder and it lays down I think it lays down more pigment. That's what I find. You'll find the difference between the Carbothello and the PITT pastels is that the Carbothello pencil seems a little bit softer. The PITT pastel pencil is a much firmer, and it also has, I think it has more pigment in it with the pencil. So you'll see I come in here and I'll put the nose area in. Once I get done doing that, then I will come back in and with a blending stump, or tortillon I believe they call them, come back in with a blending stump and I'll start pushing this down into the paper. That'll help kind of secure it right there, so when I go back over it with any highlights or anything, it will hold it and it won't smudge. So once again, I'll speed this up a little bit so you can watch how the nose comes together and play a little background music for you, and hopefully you enjoy. Okay, now I'm going to come back in with the blending stump. I'm going to smooth this out. If you noticed, I was using the Carbothello black, and the reason being is because I want to lay a darker black over top of this with the PITT pastel. So I use my Carbothello a little softer, little more tooth, or leaves a little more tooth to the paper here, and allows me to blend this out, to use different blending options. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start to define the areas of the light where the light is reflecting in the reference image, and this is going to end up being almost like a teal blue over top of a darker gray. So I go ahead and blend this in. I get this locked down into the tooth of the paper with my blending stump. Make sure I cordon off the area, or the basic area of where I want that light to reflect back. If I had put the black down here, or solid black down here, it would have been very hard to keep that lighter area. So I wanted to make sure that I got this blended out, got the kind of the general idea of where I was going to go with this, and then I can come back in later with my highlights. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my highlights now. I'll bring that blue in. Now I said teal. It's actually the Carbothello pencil, nice and soft. And mixed with the maize color pastel mat underneath. Once I blend this out with a little bit of the black that I've picked up on the blending stump, it will almost turn kind of a teal color, a darker teal. So I'm just going to go ahead and blend the area where I want that highlight to be, so then that way I don't lose it. And then I'll come back in, start tweaking out areas. Here you see I just come in with a little bit of white. Again, that's the Carbothello pencil. I stay with the Carbothellos throughout the majority of the piece, and I only use the PITT pastels for some of the areas that are a little more vibrant, that I want to make sure that I get a really solid pastel down on there. The Carbothellos are great. But the Pitt pastels, my personal preference, they work much better when you're doing your final details. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up again, listen to some music, and watch along, so then that way you can see how the process all comes together. And I'll come back when we have an area to pay attention to. One of the things I'm going to do now is I'm going to start defining kind of the shape around the nose. This gives me a visual representation of the muzzle area. So for me, it gives me kind of a set point on how I want the area of the nose, the depth of the nose to kind of come into play. So one of the great things about the blending stumps is that they pick up the pastels. So I have to my right, that you can't see off screen, is I have like 3 or 4 of them, different sizes. And one I basically use for all the dark colors, or flip it around and use the other side. But I like to keep the tip of one for dark like blacks and really dark browns. Then the other side for sort of like my mid-tones, my mid-values. And then the other ones that I have, one will be just basically for really light or soft colors like whites, or real soft muted colors, and then the other one's just kind of a spare that I use. But they work great because they pick up the pastel and they'll hold it onto the blending stump, and then you can use that to kind of shade areas that you kind of want to create some definition. I use the same thing when I'm doing like eyes, around the eyes. If you look at the eyes up top, they're not completely done. Just kind of gave myself a reference by using the blending stump. So I'll come back in here, start defining areas, and this is where I start to really pay close attention to where my lights and darks are, where my shadows are. Like here, there wasn't enough lighting that I could see some of the finer details that'll help me define the depth of the nose. So I'll go ahead and I'll start putting all that stuff in little by little. And that's how you bring the nose out to make it more realistic, is those little subtle areas that your eye doesn't normally pick up. If you pay close attention and put those in, it's the same thing when doing eyes. If you pay attention to the little fine details that you don't normally see, that's where all that comes together to make it look more realistic. So once again, I'll speed this up a little bit. You can watch along. And again, if you have any comments or anything, feel free to just leave them down below in the comment box, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. So again, a little more easy listening music, and we'll speed it up. All right, I'm going to come in with the final detailing here. As you saw earlier how I used the blending stump to pick up different areas, work them back and forth to kind of start defining or finish defining a lot of the nose. So the Pitt pastel, seeing that it's so very black, very rich black, I just use that at the final stages to kind of help define different areas. Put in little things here and there just to kind of appease the eye and make it look more realistic. I'll come back in here with my blending stump. Spit it out, Mike. blending stump to blend some of these areas out, darken some areas if I have to. Remember, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and also the bell notification, and share it with friends that are maybe looking to learn more about pastels. If you have a specific request on something that you would like to see in pastel, again, just leave it down in the comment box, and I will be glad to do a video for you if it's something that I normally do. Otherwise, maybe I can direct you to an artist that does do that. But I'll come back in here with a blending stump and also a Tombow mono eraser. You saw me use that earlier. And now all I'm doing is just kind of giving myself a generalized idea of where I want the little hairs to go, the lighter areas, by looking at the reference photo. Now I'll come in a little bit and sweep that area off, or that eraser shavings, with a little soft brush. Get those out of there, and then I can continue on with the rest of the piece. So once again, this is Mike, the artist behind Michael S. Ball Fine Art. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and have a wonderful day.